Welcome to the 6th edition of the Three Amigos. We are Peter Frohline, Richard Dillman, and me, Regis Tremblay. The topics tonight. We just can't seem to get off of Trump. The first thing we're going to talk about is he has levied 100% tariffs on China. And we're going to talk about what that is going to mean to real American people, what it's going to mean to global trade, and we're going to talk about what it's meant and going to mean to the stock market. Part of what we're going to talk about is the government shutdown. I haven't heard anything that it reopened today, and we'll talk about that, what the implications are, coupled with these tariffs, on how millions of Americans are going to feel it, especially everybody that's employed by the government, by other government, sub-agencies, by contractors. And I wonder if Trump has made a special arrangement to make sure everybody in the military gets paid. Huge consequences, I think, for what's coming. The second topic, oh my goodness, Trump was offended. He was PO'd that the Peace Prize was awarded to a woman, CIA asset in Venezuela, precisely to do what? Overthrow the government? And she got the Peace Prize for that. Doesn't make any sense, does it? And the third thing we're going to talk about, and I'm sure we'll have time because I'll make sure of it, Trump once again recklessly and wildly threatened Vladimir Putin that if he doesn't end the war and comes to peace with Ukraine, quote unquote, it's going to get really bad. Former President Dmitry Medvedev ridiculed Trump, actually made fun of him. We'll talk about these things tonight. But first, we're going to talk about the tariffs. We're going to talk about the shutdown. We're going to talk about the stock market. Peter, I'm going to throw it to you first tonight. Let's narrow it down, first of all, to, in your opinion, what these tariffs are going to do and what they're going to mean to ordinary American people.
Well, first of all, the markets, the U.S. markets did not react positively to this news, but that's not surprising. Markets don't like, they like stability. And what Trump has thrown at them is the opposite of stability. It's complete, chaos of unknown, of oh my gosh. And I don't think Trump really understands from what he says. China doesn't need the U.S. I mean, it's. I think the trade with the U.S. is around, I don't know, 14-15% of China's trade with the world. But he doesn't understand. China doesn't need U.S. trade, but U.S. needs China trade. And I've been saying this for quite a while, that if China were just to cut off all trade with the U.S., just go, okay, we're going to stop trading with you, the U.S. economy would come to a screeching halt within 30 to 60 days. Because China produces a lot of stuff we just don't produce anymore. A good example is medication. There's a huge, I don't know, it's maybe, I don't know what the actual numbers are. It's a high double digit number. I think it's between 20 to 40% of U.S. pharmaceuticals today come from China. And these are key drugs that we don't manufacture in the West anymore. And if China were to stop that, there'd be a lot of people without their medication. Translated, there would be some people dying because they can't get critical medication. So I think, but it's clear to me, I think what's going on now is somebody's in charge, but it's not Trump. Somebody's giving Trump orders to do this, and it's hard to know what their motivation is. But from what I can tell, their motivation is to complete the destruction of the U.S. economy, and he's doing a pretty good job.
Richard, what do you think? Do you agree with Peter?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, maybe I could add a little bit more to it. Sure. I mean, what's you take Walmart and Home Depot and Lowe's and all these big box stores and just go through all the items there and look at where it's all made. I don't know the percentages. I'll bet you 85 or 90% or more comes from China. So if China's going to cut us off, or if Trump's going to put 100% tariffs on that, they may just turn around and put 100% tariffs on everything you buy in Walmart, and everything's going to, for the American people, are going to cost double what you're buying in Walmart. Just add up the figures. But like this stuff, like with the what do you call it, the stock market collapsed, I don't really believe it was a collapse. I think what had happened, though, it was coming to a point to where the market really needed a correction. I mean, when you look at the stocks and stuff and the prices and stuff that you're buying and stuff, I remember years ago buying stocks or something, the normal PE ratio, the price to price action, earnings to earnings was normally around 18. Okay, like $18 for every $1. Now it's $66. So it'd be like going into a store and say, okay, you go to a place and you buy a hamburger, and a $1 hamburger. Well, you're going to go in there and pay $18 for it, but now you're going to pay $66 for the same hamburger. So that's I think what's happening there. They need a market correction, and it's been coming for a long time. And the other thing too is prices. Trump's putting 100%, 132% tariff because he had a 32% tariff mandate on China. Now, why is he doing that? The reason I think he's doing it, or the main impetus, is that China has been cut off the United States from rare earth minerals. They totally have taken over that market, totally, and they own it pretty much. The United States has really lost. They've let that go about as much as they let the 65 or 1,000. This is a 2010 figure. That's I used this quote years ago. I don't even know what it is now, but at 2010, 65,000 corporations from the United States had moved to China by 2010. I don't even know where it is now. Okay, but what had happened was, along with that, the United States used to have the rare earth minerals production pretty much under their wing, but it had gotten to a point that it was such an environmental disaster doing it that they moved, and the cost and stuff in the United States, they moved most of it over to China, and China paid dearly for that. Over like a 10 or 20 year thing, they strategically set it up that they would, over the 10 or 20 years, allow this stuff to come into China, pollute the hell out of the country, especially in the western sections, ruin their water, and they paid the dear price, but they did capture this rare earth minerals, and they own it now, and that's where you're at now. So it's kind of a situation where China earned it. They earned it the hard way. They polluted the water, and a lot of people died over it, but now they own it. And I think they've cleaned it up a lot from what they did. But when you look at the facts of the rare earth stuff, the United States dropped the ball on it. They're trying to come back to it now. They're working with Australia now with the rare earths. But the rare earth is a big issue here with this 100% with Trump putting the tariffs, that's the reason he's doing that. So it's
Yeah,
another
well,
thing they,
I I agree, and I wanted to emphasize from where I sit. I'm by no means any kind of an economic analyst because I never got economics, uh, but I know that when I was living in the States, the same as you guys, and Richard, you pointed it out, anything you buy at Walmart, Kmart, anything you buy on Amazon, it doesn't matter what. I don't know what the percentage is, Rich, whether it's 80% or more, but that's where
significant.
what Americans are buying. I mean, this is going to hit them immediately where it really hurts. They will not be able to get some basic essentials that are only made in China. The other thing I was going to comment on, and Rich, you really elaborated on it. Uh, China is holding back rare earth minerals from the United States, and that has got to really hurt because the United States depends on that for just about everything uh, highly electronic. The military industrial complex and everything they're involved in is going to hit them really hard. The other side of the equation is Russia, I don't understand it, is still selling the United States rare earth minerals. Russia's very wealthy when it comes to that. And the other thing that I don't get, and I'd like to see the United States do it, is cut that supply off, as well as the supply of uranium, which the United States desperately needs to power their own nuclear reactors.
Yeah.
And so I'm really happy to see China take the lead, and I wish Russia would follow its example. Now, I want to get back to what's happening in the United States to the ordinary American consumer and investor. Peter, I'm going to come to you. Um, you guys been talking about the stock market.
Yeah.
I've never had any money to invest, so I've never followed the stock market. Um, I'd like to know how what's happening is going to affect millions of people who do invest in the stock market. And I guess from what you said, Peter, there's two types. There's those that sit there and gamble day by day, and others who are in it for the long term. How is that going to affect them?
Well,
I mean, is this a crash like in 2008, or is
oh,
it is
yeah.
it something different?
Yeah, no, this is I haven't coined this phrase, but I believe it truly is. We're in the everything bubble, and this is going to be the biggest market correction in world history. And the reason for that is Western countries, mainly the US, has unprecedented debt, and not just government debt, but private debt also. So the to we've gone through the last 50 plus years of some of the greatest wealth creation in world history. It's been the stock market has done amazingly well in the US over the last 50 years. Well, that's coming to an end. And I started seeing this 5 years ago that there were some, rumblings in the market around when the the COVID emergency showed up. So I started paying close attention then, and it became very clear to me that this debt that the government has is completely unsustainable. The markets are in deep trouble, and just by market manipulation, the government's been able to hide this fact. But if you look at the numbers coming out of the U.S. government very closely, none of the numbers make any sense at all. Meaning the government's just lying to us. They're covering up what's going on. Now, when I started seeing this 5 years ago, I said, okay, where if the stock market and the bond market aren't safe places to be, where is? And I started doing more research, and I found that investing in commodities, specifically gold and silver commodities, was the right place to be. I believed that then, and I still believe that today. And something just big happened to confirm my belief on that is Goldman Sachs, which is one of the biggest banks and investment firms in the world, just came out and changed their recommendation of investment, because the typical recommendation for the last 50 years has been 60% stocks, 40% bonds, and that was what they used as their baseline. Well, Goldman Sachs just in the last couple of weeks came out with new recommendation, and this is huge. They said, okay, 60% stocks, 20% bonds, and 20% gold. Now, this, for one of the biggest banks in the world to make this recommendation, this is huge. But I'm not surprised by this at all, because this is what I've been seeing coming for 5 years. It's been coming for a lot longer than that, but that's my time period that I've woken up to what's going on. So you have to understand what going into gold or silver means is it's moving a good portion of your portfolio into safety, because traditionally gold and silver are where people go when they want basically an insurance policy on their investments, on their retirement funds, things like this. But this is huge, and I think this is the beginning of people waking up to understanding that the fundamental markets in the U.S. right now are broken, and you need to find safe places to put that money.
Well, Richard, you want to comment on that, or I'd have a couple of questions for you.
For me, or
For you. All right, I want your opinion on what Peter just said about federal national debt. It's 37 trillion and rising, and
yeah, right.
rising by
Yeah.
$1 trillion every 2 or 3 months, which
Yeah,
is
these both. Yeah.
wait a minute. I have another part of that
Okay.
question.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The thing that I think is hurting almost all Americans is personal debt. They don't have money. Many people are unemployed. Many people are underemployed and working 2 or 3 jobs. I have even heard that people are having to use their credit cards to even buy basic necessities, including food. Now, to me, if I were living in the United States, Richard, I'd be in deep doo-doo. I would not ever, I mean, as a retired person, I don't know what I do. I'm on a limited income. And
Well,
so
yeah, I
Richard,
saw retired people. Yeah.
wait a minute. That leads to my second part of my question that I'm asking you is my Social Security and brief retirement checks that I get monthly in jeopardy, in trouble, because of what you two guys are talking about that is happening with the United States economy? Take it away.
But well, we should ask them bozos in Washington and in the state legislature. Basically, what gets to me is it's because of spending and all of that they shut the government down. I guess that's what it is, because they just can't afford it, right? But you know what? They all come out millionaires or multi-millionaires. So they're doing something that we're not doing. But like the lower class, the middle class, and the lower middle class, or whatever in the United States, yes, they're the ones who'll be reeling and feeling it. The thing about it is you got these bankers and stuff. They want to keep everybody in a debt spiral, a total debt spiral. It's like this thing here. I'm going to show you. It's like 1996 Silver Eagle. This is a $1 thing with made by the U.S. Mint in 1996. The $1 it was worth. Right now, it's worth $51.54. Why is that? And how much is the U.S. Federal Reserve note? How much is that worth? 3 cents. You know, that's all you got to do is just show somebody the piece of this coin here and say, why is this $51.54? Well, because I'm holding it and it's right here. They can't steal it. That's what they've done. They've taken all the gold and silver, which we used to have on our dollars. So since 130 years, they've been taking, since they took over in 1913, they just took the dollar and just brought it down. They stole all the gold and silver and basically just making it just a worthless piece of paper. And this is what their plan is. Like Peter said, they are planning on taking that down to totally, this fiat currency down to zero. Unfortunately, that's why he said gold and silver is a good thing to get into. Yes. Why? Because it's been around for thousands of years, and fiat currencies have probably maybe lasted. I don't know about the Roman. Maybe the Romans would have been the longest, but they don't even last 100 years. Most fiat currencies, and they go down to zero because it happens over and over again. They start out and they back it by some tangible commodities and assets, and then they get inside. They steal all that and turn that paper into some sort of a debt note that becomes totally worthless. And it's happened before throughout millennia. There's no difference here. And it's the same people doing it, the same tribe doing it. Sorry, but that's the truth.
Rich, look, I've got a 1926 Liberty silver dollar. I'm trying to show it there, but the glare is.
I see it. Yeah. That's worth 77% of what I just told you. So,
are you telling me this is worth $51 now?
No, that's not quite, because it's 77% of 1 ounce. This is 1 ounce. Your coin is 26 grams, so it's 77% of $54. So whatever that would come out.
Well, what is that? How much is this thing worth? Should I hang it?
$38. I'll rough around my head and say about $38 now, something like that.
Hey, that's not bad. 38.
Not bad. No, that's not bad. You know, you keep that in your pocket in case you get emerged, you run out of gas, you can get $38.
Now,
so
Regis.
So Peter
carries one with me in case I need it. You know.
Yeah, Regis, to answer your question about Social Security.
I wanted to come and ask you that
Oh
specifically.
yeah, sorry, I forgot about that. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, what the U.S. government has painted themselves into a corner. So there's only two ways they can handle this debt. They can either outright default, which they can't do, because they outright default, then the game is completely stopped. It's over, and they can't borrow any more money. So the only alternative that they painted themselves into the corner to do is to it's to print more money. It's still a default, but it's a slow motion default. Now, as they print more money, the money in circulation becomes less valuable and less valuable over time. So I would recommend to anyone who's on Social Security, get that monthly check, take a portion of it and put it in gold and silver. And so as the money gets worth less, the gold and silver go up, and it should, if you're buying enough of it, that should make up for the destruction. But if you just sit there and collect your monthly check, it's going to buy less and less and less until a point, Richard's point, at some point, you'll have a wheelbarrow full of cash that won't even buy you a loaf of bread. So
that's scary. So Peter,
yeah, that is scary.
Peter, the three of us are living here in the Russian Federation, and we take our retirement money, and what I do is I convert it to rubles and I put it right in the bank. I need that basically to live on. What is the implication in terms of what the dollar is worth compared to what the ruble will buy? If what you're saying is true, the dollar won't be worth much. Will it be the same thing in Russia? The dollar will be worth nothing, less?
No, because the right now Russia, China, and the BRICS are decoupling as we speak, decoupling from the dollar. They're creating a new system, and it's my understanding that the new system will be based on real tangible assets like gold and silvers and other commodities. And I think that's yet to be defined exactly what that whole basket of commodities will be. But when that happens, that will stabilize the currencies in the BRICS alliance, whereas the U.S. dollar, there's nothing backing it. To Richard's point, the U.S. government took over time took the dollar. At one time you could get the dollar and go in to the Federal Reserve and get a piece of gold or silver. Well, that's no longer the case. There's no gold or silver backing dollars in the West, so there's nothing at all behind the dollar. And the dollar, like I said, their only avenue right now is they're going to have to keep printing money, and it's going to destroy the value of the dollar. Whereas these smart countries outside of the U.S., the BRICS, and those, I believe, at some point, 90% or more of the world will be behind BRICS. Now, I think a lot of those countries who in the world are already supporting BRICS, but they can't openly come out and say that because the U.S. government is still so powerful. They don't want to piss the U.S. government off, so they're quietly. But there are governments all around the world as we speak. Their central banks are buying as much gold and silver as they get their hands on. So that tells you they know what's coming, and they know that they need tangible assets to back their currencies.
All right. So Peter, I understand that, even though I'm a novice at all this economic stuff, but what's it going to mean to a guy like me, an expat living in Russia? I don't care about anywhere else in the world. What's it going to do to my purchasing power when I get whatever dollars come to me every month? What's going to be my purchasing power here in Russia? In other words, is it going to be worth a lot less in rubles? In which case, for a guy like me who's dependent on that monthly check, it's going to mean everything's going to be more expensive. I wonder if it'll get to the point where I might have to be sitting out next to one of the underpasses with a little tin cup begging for help.
Well, Regis, that's so important that right now you're buying gold and silver here in Russia, because that gold and silver will go up and it will make up for it. And that's why, as much as you can afford, get that Social Security check, get it into rubles and buy gold and silver, and then just sit on it. Because see, I'm collecting Social Security too, so I'm in the same boat that you are. Now I have other investments, but right now I'm able to live off my Social Security comfortably. But at some point, that dollar conversion to what we can buy, we're going to be able to buy less rubles with that dollar until some point Russia will say, hey, we don't want dollars anymore. No one will convert it because it will be worthless.
Wow. So
Yeah.
I'll have to take you seriously about buying silver. I don't think I can even afford gold. But
Well,
no, but I understand, what you're saying. And I want to pursue this a little bit further for people in the United States, especially where most of our viewers are coming from. They're wondering if they're even considering leaving the country or even coming to Russia, could they live on their basic fixed income? Now, you just mentioned it, and I agree with you, and I know Richard would. We've been able to live comfortably, but frugally, at least myself. I have not had to deny myself anything. I just have not I will not spend lavishly on anything I don't need. Uh, I don't need a lot of new things like clothes or shoes. Uh, and I don't need a lot of other material kind of things. Um, so for anybody that's thinking about what is life like here and what our purchasing power is, it is far greater than the average Russian, even
Yeah.
I would
Oh,
say
yeah.
middle class Russians, and far more than what the ordinary Russian pensioner receives each month, which I don't know how some of these people can survive on that. Richard, you were going to jump in.
Sure. I could tell you because when I first came here, I've been in Russia over 11 years now. And when I first came to Russia in 2014, the ruble to dollar was 32 to 35. That's where it was bouncing around. And over the years, it jumped up. Right now to this today it was 81 something. It was 81.26 or something like that. 81.26 rubles to a dollar. But if people were thinking about coming here and living on a normal United States Social Security stipend you would get for the month, absolutely you can do that here. No problem. I lived for a long time. I did recently get another pension from my veterans, but that wasn't until a long time, 2019. I start 2020 maybe. But I lived a long time just on my Social Security, and I lived a very nice life. But I wasn't like you. But we were able to go on vacation every year. But we had to go out every 6 months, so I had to leave the country.
Yeah.
But I had no problem, and I'm not getting a real lot for Social Security, but yes, I think people, if they run to retire and come to Russia, you could live on Social Security. Why? Because of my normal electric rates are 380 to 400 rubles a month. You divide that by 80, and it's about $6 a month by electric. I'm paying for my phone. I'm paying 500 rubles a month. That's what, $8, $7. Everything, the whole thing, everything like electric and everything.
Yeah,
$40 a month.
gas.
Everything's $40 a month. Yeah.
Yeah,
Gas,
I mean it's
electric,
unreal.
everything. Yeah, and the food, the food is. I've seen inflation in the food here, yes, but it's still very reasonable to the dollar. So if somebody's thinking of coming here, I'd say come here for a month and check it out. That's what I would do.
Yeah,
the prices here.
The
The rents are 25,000 and 30,000 a month. That's a smaller apartment, but I think for $500 you could get a real nice apartment, pretty nice.
Yeah, I was going to caution
Or
people,
more. Yeah.
depending on where you decide to live, renting an apartment can be very affordable for somebody on a fixed income. But if you want to buy property or you want to rent an apartment in places like Moscow, St. Petersburg, or any of the larger cities, you'll have to move to the suburbs to be able to find something that's really affordable. That's the same case here in Yalta. The prices for real estate and apartments they're going up and up and up. So anyway, I'm really enjoying this discussion because I think for a lot of people it'll be informative, educational. They wouldn't have any idea what it's like for three expats, and we're really in three different, financial situations. But I really think it's important for me to have this discussion because I really don't think in terms of money and the equations and investments. And so it's helpful for me, and I hope it might be helpful for anybody else who's listening. And I know I have some friends in the United States who would love to come to Russia. They're wondering whether or not they could afford it. Well, Peter and Richard, I hope they take your advice and invest in silver today and wait a few months, and then they might have enough to buy a one-way airline ticket
Right.
through Qatar, through the United Arab Emirates, and then through Istanbul, and then to Moscow. And yeah, we wouldn't mind if a very few of you came to Crimea. All right, I don't know. I don't think that exhausts the topic of what we started with, but it was tariffs on China. Uh, the government. No, I want to get back to the government shutdown. Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, uh, there's got to be. I don't know how many people are employed by the federal government in Washington D.C. and in every state in the country who are not going to get paychecks. What it's going to do to them, and what it's going to do to millions and millions of Americans who depend on those government services in their states, like welfare money, like help with uh, parents with children who are unemployed, food stamps. I mean, my God, this could be, unless I'm totally ignorant, really catastrophic. Peter, Richard, what do you think? I'm throwing it to you
I,
this.
I I think they should stop financing a lot of things that are just wasteful, like billions of dollars in Gaza right now. I don't know, it's like $32 billion they've given to kill these people. Cut that off right now. I mean, come on, it's like the thing too is we got to start thinking about if you're really in the United States, that people should just start saying to them, we're going to have a moratorium. I don't care what the situation is, unless they're attacking the United States and the people on the continental United States. No more wars. Forget
Yeah,
this
and
war
and
below.
Rich, the same
It's
thing.
all war.
Cut
Everything's
off
war with these people.
cut off those billions of dollars in money and equipment, weapons in Ukraine. I mean, if just those two,
Absolute. NATO, sure.
would save
Mhm.
billions of dollars. And many Americans, as you say, Rich, are waking up. They understand they don't want any more of these costly wars all over the world, or these conflicts that are being funded by their money to the tune of over $1 trillion a year now in rising on the War Department. I mean, I
They
hope,
say for
Rich.
American, they say for American interests. I don't see it in that within the American population have gotten nothing from the year 2001, 911 since now, 6 or 7 trillion or more now, fighting wars basically for Israel. That's basically what it is.
Yeah,
So, I
and
mean, when you start looking at, yeah, come on, man, it's enough of this stuff, enough of the wars.
yeah,
Actually,
and
sorry, but what China said, they said we're cutting off the rare earth so you can't make any more wars. That's what they said this morning on the news. I saw them. They said, "Well, we're kind of cutting your wars out, aren't we? Because a lot of it's done. A lot of that rare earth stuff's used for military. Just to
yeah.
make, yeah,
So I was just going to affirm what you said. We've got 800 military bases uh, scattered all over the world in some, 90 or 100 countries. For what? Well, it's obvious for what? To project power, not to secure our personal security and safety, but to secure America's national interest, which is money, which is
yeah.
oil, which is gas, which is fruit from Central and South America or wherever else they find commodities that they need. Anyway, I think, there was a study done that some friends of mine kept telling me about. I think it might have been by Amherst University in Massachusetts. It's a major study that proved if the United States converted from the military uh, uh, manufacturing to manufacturing things that people needed, like high speed rail, all that implies to other areas that the United States can't produce anymore, but could very easily do, and that would revive the economy. they made a study that proved it would increase not only the number of jobs, employment in the country, but also a higher standard of living for more people who have those skills in producing things. Just an interesting side thought. All right, let's go with a little time we have left on the Peace Prize. My goodness. Trump has been campaigning overtly, publicly, that he's worthy of the Peace Prize. He even reportedly thought during his first term, when he was number 45, that he deserved the Peace Prize. And now that he didn't get it and they gave it to that woman from Venezuela who wants to overthrow the government on behalf of the United States, he's angry. He's PO'd. And I had to laugh. I really had to laugh. And your thoughts on today, he flew to Israel to be there for the exchange of hostages, claiming that his new peace plan is working. Well, they've exchanged hostages, but I'm not sure we have peace yet, or we're going to have peace. I'm going to throw it up to you first, Peter. What are your thoughts?
It just blows my mind that he would even be considered for any type of peace prize. He hasn't kept any of his promises when he came into office to be the president of peace and to end wars. He's directly responsible for the murder of at least 500,000 people in Ukraine and Russia, men, women, and children, from this war that he could have stopped. He's blowing boats out of the water in Venezuela, claiming they're drug boats. It's completely unlawful what he's doing there.
Yeah, and with no proof
Yeah,
whatsoever, no
right.
investment, nothing.
And then, he attacks Iran, unprovoked attack during peace talks. I'm convinced now that Israel is going to attack Iran again. It's going to pull us into it, and Trump will go along with it. It's completely. I find it bizarre to even think that he could be considered, because he's done nothing to make the world safer. And then on top of that, I was very hopeful when he came into office that he would reverse a lot of these Biden policies in relation to Russia to de-escalate. And not only has he not de-escalated, now, he's talking about if Russia doesn't stop this war quickly, that he's going to escalate. So we've been walking on this nuclear edge next to this nuclear cliff for over 3+ years, thanks to the U.S. government and the West. And Trump has done nothing, zero, to de-escalate that. And I think that's actually the biggest fear I have, is whether it's intentional or unintentional, whether it's accidental, that some nuke is launched accidentally, and then we're all in deep trouble.
Yeah, and he claims that this war in Ukraine is Biden's war, but he actually bragged about sending Mavericks to Ukraine I think it's Maverick missiles, during his first term. So, and how he can claim that he's brokering peace and bringing it about in Ukraine when he continues to support Ukraine with money and weapons, and he thinks that by criticizing Putin, it's going to make him look like a peace candidate, a peace president. And then he hasn't declared officially war, but he's militarized money, he's militarized sanctions, he's militarized tariffs, and if you can call threats something other than violence, threatening violence, economic disaster, starvation of people, if you can consider that peacemaking, you got to be out of your mind.
I am sick and tired of people saying Trump couldn't have stopped the war in Ukraine. And my response to that is, I'll tell you what Trump should have done and he didn't do. On day one, on January 20th, he should have called a special joint session of Congress and got up in front of Congress and said, enough. The Ukraine war is over. I'm calling Zelensky right now. I'm telling him it's over. We're stopping all aid. We're stopping all military support, period. Now, I've heard some people say, well, he doesn't have the power to do that. Well, technically, that's true. Congress has advocated their responsibility to declare war and given it to the president. Well, at that point, they could have said, okay, no, we're going to keep the war going. And then Trump should have said, okay, if you're going to keep the war going, it's on you now. It's not on me. It's on you. Then you're going to have to answer to the American people. But I'm telling you now, this war is over. And I'm sick and tired of pundits and all these people saying, well, Trump couldn't have stopped it. Well, that's BS. He's allowed over 500,000 more people to die in Russian Ukraine, and the blood is on his hands. And this is satanic.
Yeah. Richard, have at it.
Well, yeah, I agree fully with Peter because Trump comes, where does he come from? He comes from Chabad Lubavitch, and they are satanic. He represents them. His handlers in the White House, Susie Wiles and Lutnick, they are from the synagogue of Satan. There's no two ways about it. You know, these people are evil, and they're not. They don't want no peace. They laugh at peace. They think they don't want no peace. You think Israel's going to give a? You think Israel's going to stop once they take Gaza? They're not going to stop. They're going to take Beirut. They're going to take all of Lebanon. Why are they going to do that? Because the gas fields in Gaza, the gas fields are over Lebanon, huge amounts of gas there. They're going to steal all that. They want that land for themselves. They believe that that's their land. They can steal anything. They got nuclear weapons. They think they can do anything they want. These people are very dangerous.
Rich.
And they've shown what monsters they are. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's really obvious, well, to some of us anyway, that those people that are in control, those people that profit from war, do not want peace. They have no sense of empathy or morality when the wars that they fund and create are killing millions and millions of people. As we've mentioned, both of you before, they really don't care. They really don't care. They don't care about the destruction of the environment. That war, there is no greater destructive force than war on the environment. It has destroyed ecosystems, depleted uranium in Ukraine, napalm, and the unexploded ordnances in Vietnam, Laos. These things are still killing people. And who's responsible for that? You know, kind of in closing, I think that if there is a future, if history is written 100 years from now, if anybody's still around, I think it's going to paint a very, very dark picture for the United States of America. Anyway, guys, this has been really interesting.
I'd like to just cut one more thing out of that. When I say that they're from the synagogue of Satan and they're evil and stuff, you have to understand that these people, they do not tell the truth. They're master deceivers, and they will not. They just lie about everything. Just like Peter said, the government lies about all the facts and stuff that they put out. Well, most of them are all representing from Washington, especially representing this evil cancer. They lie about everything. Listen to Netanyahu. Listen to what he says. Listen to what Trump says. All they do is lie. Absolutely. I don't try to listen to them anymore. If I do, I just know it's a lie coming out of their mouth. All the time they lie. That's the truth. Just really, they lie. They have
and
to.
it's
That's part
interesting.
of their cycle or something.
It's interesting. William Casey, back in the 1980s, when he was the director of the CIA under Ronald Reagan, you guys remember this quote, it's famous. Oh, we've done a good job when Americans believe everything we've told them is a lie. And we're hearing it over and over again today. As you just mentioned, Rich, all you have to do is flip the script 180 degrees, and it's the opposite of what they're saying. Just to remind our viewers, we've tried to recreate this, not as like lecturing, but as a sample of what our weekly or bi-monthly meetings are like at our favorite pizzeria here in Yalta. It's a back and forth. It's sometimes get really crazy, and it's always very intense. So I want to thank you guys for that. I want to thank everybody who's watching. It helps if you give a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube, or a like if you're watching on BitChute and Rumble. It really helps to increase the audience and to help change the algorithms that determine where this show shows up in terms of interest and likes of a lot of people. So we hope you'll do that. Thanks again. We'll see you all next time.